Slàinte. And if you're wondering why I'm greeting you in Gaelic today, it's because today we are celebrating all things Scottish, especially Scottish produce, which in my opinion is some of the best produce in the entire world. But I might be a little bit biased because I am a certain percentage Scottish. Not sure exactly how much. On my mother's side, my grandfather's parents were both Scottish, and also my grandmother's parents were both Scottish. So, what's that, a quarter Scottish? I don't know. Tell me in the comments. But I do know that on my grandfather's side, our clan was Clan Gordon, or is Clan Gordon. Hence, I am wearing the tartan of my clan today. And with Burns Night just around the corner, we thought this was the perfect time to celebrate everything Scottish, and indeed celebrate a little bit of our heritage. So today, we are going to be making Highland Haggis Whisky Burgers. And even if you don't observe Burns Night, if you like burgers, you're going to like this one. So let's get to it.
And what do you serve with these gourmet Highland Haggis Whisky Burgers? You serve Neeps and Tatties chips, of course, thrice cooked nonetheless. And we'll start by preparing our Neeps, more commonly known as Swedes, or I believe rutabaga if you're in the USA. We want to top it, tail it, and then peel it. And I've got a particularly strong vegetable peeler here, but you could do all the peeling with a knife if you haven't got one of these. And then we're going to cut it into chip shapes. Then we're going to do exactly the same with our potatoes, aka our tatties. And at this stage, we're dropping everything into a pan of cold, salted water because that will prevent browning, and that pan will go on the heat shortly. Just rinsing those potatoes under a cold tap to try and get off as much starch as possible to promote extra crispiness. Then that pan goes on a medium-high heat from a cold start for about 18 minutes. And that's the first of our 3 cooking methods for our Neeps and Tatties chips. So drain everything, let them steam dry for about 10 to 15 minutes, then drop them into a clean bowl and drizzle over whatever oil you're going to use to cook them. We've got some delicious smoked tallow here, and that's just going to be some fantastic flavour on these chips. But just make sure you coat your chips gently because you don't want to break them up. And we want to air fry these, so we're going to set our Ninja Woodfire XL to 160 degrees Celsius on the air fry setting, and we're going to do that just for 5 minutes to start with and see how we get on. And after 5 minutes, I think they can go for another 5. And another 5 here too. And then let's get them indoors, let's get them into Ziploc bags and get them in the freezer. And let's dress this burger with our 8-hour whiskey onions. So you want to take 2 massive onions, get them peeled and slice them. Pop a couple of tablespoons of oil into a pan, add your onions and turn the heat right down to the lowest setting. Add some salt, give your onions a stir and leave them on that low setting to cook down for about 45 minutes. Check in now and again just to make sure they're not catching. Then just keep stirring and checking and stirring until you get to about the 6-hour mark, at which point you can add your whiskey, or in our case, whiskey liqueur. Let that cook out on a really low heat again for another couple of hours, and your whiskey onions are ready. And for the main event, you want 1 pound of haggis, 1 pound of ground beef mince, and you want to mush those two together. Try not to overwork as much as possible. You don't need to add any seasoning in this case, because unlike most burgers, where the art is actually in getting the seasoning perfect, your seasoning in this case is the haggis. And it's starting to look a little bit crumbly to me because haggis doesn't have a lot of fat. So what I recommend doing here, as I'm doing, is just cracking in an egg to help bind your mixture. And of course, the whiskey, which you want to add now to your Highland Haggis Whisky Burgers. I'm going to add, I don't know, a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. This isn't the best whiskey, but it's what I had in the house. You are going to be able to taste that whiskey as well, so if you're a whiskey connoisseur, unlike me, make sure you use one that you like. Then shape your patties. Pop them in the fridge. Now it's time to get cooking. Back to our Ninja, back on the air fryer setting, up to 200 degrees this time to get those Neeps and Tatties chips nice and crispy. And let's start them off for 10 minutes. On they go, straight from the freezer. Give them a shake. And I think back on for another 10. And they're looking and sounding pretty great now. So let's season them up with our own blend of SPGC, salt, pepper, garlic, chilli. And instead of pickles or gherkins in this burger, we're going to be using some silver skin pickled onions for some extra bite in terms of texture and flavour. And of course we want cheese in our burger, and this being a tribute to all things Scottish, we are using the king of blue cheeses, a lovely ripe Stilton. And then it's back to our Ninja, this time for some grilling action. We're going to put it on medium because haggis is essentially all offal, and you want offal to be cooked totally through, so we want to make sure we achieve that without scorching the outsides of our burgers. And down with yet more of our delicious smoked tallow. And I'll be happy here with a temperature anything above 167 Fahrenheit. Time to toast our homemade hot Scotch buns, made especially for this Highland Haggis whiskey recipe. And if you haven't seen how to make these buns yet, the video came out last week on YouTube, so I'll make sure there's a link in the description.
It's Haggis Burger for Burns Night, whiskey, onions and Stilton ripe. A boon on my attack your place, pains, tripe or therm. We'll are you worthy of a grace as length's my arm. It's Haggis Burger for Burns Night, whiskey, onions, and Stilton ripe. Haggis burger for Burns night, whiskey, onions, and Stilton ripe. Neeps and Tatties crisp and fried, it's Haggis burgers for Burns night. By Pitt, Wizard, and Rabbi Burns, the Haggis burgers will return.
Okay, you've seen the process, you've seen the ingredients, there's nothing more to say, let's dive in. Pretty pleased with that cross section. Slange about. Okay, without a hint of hyperbole, I can say that is one of the best burgers I have ever tried. It's meatiness on meatiness on savouriness on meatiness. The haggis is there, but it's tempered quite nicely by the flavour of that beef. The texture's nice and juicy, but it's still got form, as you can see. The strength of that Stilton cheese, which I know isn't everybody's cup of tea, but that really, really works with the haggis, almost like an extension of the flavour profile of the haggis itself. Now, if you don't like Stilton cheese, you could use a strong cheddar there. You could even opt for American cheese if you want to. That wouldn't be my preference, because you do want those flavours extending from the haggis into the cheese. But you've also got the ironiness of the spinach there to do that job for you if you really don't like strong cheeses. The barbecue sauce with the whiskey is just... I mean, it works with everything. If you've not seen the video on how to do that yet, we made it with our sausage poppers a while back, so make sure you check out that video, and you can also see the recipe on Substack. Speaking of Substack, you'll see the recipe for everything made here today on there, and it's completely free to subscribe at the moment, so you might want to take advantage of that. Whiskey onions, whiskey in the meat, whiskey barbecue sauce, it brings everything together. There's an earthiness that complements all the meat in there, and then just a little bit of a sweet earthiness coming from those hot Scotch buns that we made earlier. If you've not seen the video on how to make those yet, you might want to check that out too. Proving and baking blue cornmeal buns, all in the Ninja Woodfire, so we can complete this absolutely awesome decadent burger today. Now, what I do need to do is go in and try some of these delicious guys here. Our Neeps and Tatties. Okay, so the first thing I can say is Neeps don't crisp up like Tatties. Let's get some of our whiskey barbecue sauce and give it a try. Slange about. So yeah, texturally, nothing like a fry, nothing like a chip. Flavour wise, it's kind of a sweet earthiness. It's reminiscent of a fry or a chip, but there's more to it, there's a little bit more complexity. So you're sacrificing texture for flavour, in my opinion, with that. It's good. It's not as good as a chip, but the flavour's certainly interesting. So let's try a potato one. And I know this is a potato one simply because I can feel it's texturally more crispy and more solid. Slange about.
And we appear to have lost audio at this stage, but suffice to say, the crispy texture combined with that lovely smoked tallow and that beautiful SPG chili seasoning that we used is a perfect complement to this Highland Haggis Whisky Burger.
So that's going to about do it for us. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you are observing Burns Night, a very happy Burns Night to you. Slange about, and we'll see you next time.